Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we're playing the new hotness that a lot of people have been smashing leagues with, and that is Black-White Scam. So this is the sort of traditional scam package of Troll of Khazad-dum and Grief, where you reanimate it. But we've gone a bit further by also having Solitude and Ephemerate as another way of doing stuff on turn 1. Now my thoughts on Ephemerate is the ceiling of this card is incredibly high. If you're getting to like triple dip on your Grief, or your Solitude, whatever, it's going to be amazing. But if you're in a sort of like a mid to late game situation where you're drawing cards off the top and you draw this and you don't really have anything to do with it, then it feels terrible. So I'm not sure how I feel about this card, but we're going to play the stock build today, if you would see, and then maybe in a week or two's time, provided nothing from this deck gets banned in the upcoming banned update from when I'm recording this, then we'll try it with something instead of the Ephemerates. So that's like the main part of what we're doing in our deck. We are also a Stoneforge deck. We have just the Kaldra Compleat and the Lion Sash. I've seen some builds running Jitte, which I'm sort of interested in as a one-of, to go and fetch with our Stoneforge Mystic. It seems like quite a nice little package we can have there for the sort of the grindier creature decks. But we've got Orcish Bowmasters to ping our opponents down and stop them drawing cards. And we've got 4 Pest Control. Worst case scenario, we cycle it, but it's going to be able to blow up a lot of problem permanents for us, like a bunch of chunky Urza Saga that we can't deal with. That sort of jam. We've got some hand disruption and a couple of Thoughtseize to go alongside our Griefs. And then we just got removal in the Plows alongside our Solitudes. And that's pretty much it. It's a pretty simple deck at the end of the day. We're just running a bunch of good spells in this colour pair and trying to scam people out. We are a Wasteland deck, which is always nice to see. And we've got a couple of Shadowy Backstreet to get a little bit of surveil value. Because we're not running 1-drop creatures due to Pest Control, we are able to like fetch a Shadowy Backstreet quite often on turn 1. Sideboard-wise, we've got some hate for artifact decks and combo stuff. We've also got Stony Silence, so we're sort of mixing our effects, or types of effects. So if they have artifact hate, they can't blow up the silence, etc. This also pitches to Solitude, which is important. A couple of Loran to blow up some artifacts, a bit more hand disruption that also gets around white removal, a bit more stuff against combo. As you can see, we are a relatively fair deck aside from our Grief package, which isn't fair, it's just a bit miserable. So it's not unfair. It's just sort of an annoying thing to play against. So we have that to kind of take down combo decks, but things like Veil of Summer do exist. So a little bit more juice in the Mindbreak Trap helps, and Leyline on the Void is kind of similar. It's going to be brought in against all the Echo Vions combo decks that are running around at the moment, as well as Reanimator, that sort of jam. So yeah, this deck has been making some real waves in Legacy. Let's have a look and see how it goes. Remember to like and subscribe, and let's get scamming. Well, we don't have our scam stuff to do. We have a lot of lands, but 2 of them are surveil lands, which can sort of make our reanimate better as well. I think I'm going to try this one. Orcish Bowmasters is a pretty good card. Alright. Are we just going to get comboed, or are we going to get Goblined? We're going to get Goblined pretty soon. Right, Cavernous Souls and a Chrome Mox. The problem with us Wastelanding here is that it sets us back a land as well. But it might stop our opponent from being able to do anything. We just need to decide what we're doing. We have a lot of lands. The only real line of interaction we have is either getting this and then playing the Bowmasters here, or we can try and stop our opponent. I don't like Wastelanding when we're already behind on board. I think I'm going to go and get a Surveil land. See if we can Surveil a Solitude or something. And then we can do that and reanimate it and hopefully stabilize from there. A Chrome Mox, our Pest Control is looking mighty fine next turn. But it depends how much damage our opponent does to us this turn. To stick a Goblin. A Goblin Rabblemaster. Okay, that's not the end of the world. This is 3 damage. So we have a choice with our Orcish Bowmasters. We can use the Orcish Bowmaster to defeat the Rabblemaster. Or we can Pest Control and sweep up all their mana. And then try and win through this afterwards. This can go into our graveyard. We do not require that. An Ephemerate. Okay. So if we Pest Control this turn, next turn we Bowmasters and Ephemerate it. So we put 2 damage on this and kill it, and then we have 2 blockers on this and kill it. And our opponent will be left with possibly just 1 little guy. We should be able to beat a little guy. Right, this also stops our opponent deploying anything else to the board, in theory. Our opponent's got 1 card in hand, and we're about to destroy a lot of their opponents. So they're going to hit us for, what, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 this turn. And if they find a land, it's 8, 9, 10. And that's a lot. But we do have the Bowmasters plan next turn. Mountain would be a scary one. Like, they could have a land that doesn't actually put mana into the Battlecry Goblin. Like, their soul lands, more caverns, that sort of thing. Won't give them the basic red mana. Alright. We're not taking more damage. We're just taking a little bit. Unless they got a Spirit Guide. They do have a Spirit Guide. Okay. Yeah, this is more damage. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's going to put us to 7. Sorry, it's going to put us to 4, sorry. I forgot the extra pump on the Rabblemaster. So now our play is pretty clear. A Chrome Mox. So we need to fire off this Bowmasters now and hit this Battlecry Goblin. That is scarier than the Rabblemaster right now. We want to do this before our opponent has red mana to activate the Battlecry Goblin and pump their whole team. Okay, so now we have a 2-2 as well. They're just attacking with their 1/1s. They are. Oh no, they're going in with the Rabblemaster. No. We can reanimate the Battlecry Goblin if we want to. So block 1. If we take 2 here, this gets blinked and we take out another one. Make this guy bigger. We take 1 the following turn. Right, I think we just want to get this Ephemerate doing a little bit more work for us. This means if we draw another Bowmaster, it's also pretty good. Let's ping down a Goblin. A Wasteland. Reanimate is off now. But we can stop our opponent from doing very much. So they can hit us for 1 this turn if they want to. Kind of ends up much of the same, doesn't it? Right, so now we have them sort of roadblocked. We've got the next land covered. We just need to find something. Am I willing to use a Surveil land and go to 1? I think I'm willing to play it out. And then we'll decide if we're actually doing anything with it. Let's see what our opponent's turn does. Alright, so we can just eat this little goblin. Oh, wait, we're just dead here, aren't we? No, we're not dead here, right? We block and then we take 1. And then we have to rip off the top. Feels like we're close to dead, though. We're definitely not getting a Shadowy Backstreet now. A grief. Okay, that plays here. Black, black. And this. Alright, opponent. Show me what you got. One thing that we can take. Okay. Ancient Tomb into any goblin is pretty scary. Can't block that one. That's us dead. Alright. We ran it close but didn't quite get there. Do we have anything that's actually good in this matchup from our sideboard? Or is our main deck just pretty solid at this one? I don't really want Thoughtseizes that much. I would like some more removal, but we don't really have that luxury. The Loran seems okay. It trades with the body and takes out some of their mana. It does cost 3 mana though. I think I'd rather have that than a Thoughtseize. It's just a body that can sort of gum up the works or hold a Lion Sash or whatever. But I don't think we have anything else that we're really boarding in. Alright, let's just go in like this. So this Orcish Bowmaster hand is probably not where we need to be. We need to mulligan into some actual removal. Okay, now this is a very good hand. I will take this one. Do we want a Shadowy Backstreet? Possibly. We have one here. I think our plan here is to start with this so we can get basic planes in case our opponent's boarded in a Blood Moon. So allows us to plow as well on turn 1. We could go get a Shadowy Backstreet if we feel that way inclined. But I think just a turn 2 Stoneforge Mystic is going to be quite handy here. A Chromox. Kaldra should be bigger than all the goblins. That Matron. And Ancient Tomb. Bombardiers. This will get the Source of Plowshares treatment. We will fetch a basic here. Alright. Our plow resolved. There's our turn. White card for Solitude wouldn't be the worst. There we go. Let's just go and get a Kaldra. This is a matchup where Jitte would actually look pretty good, I think. A touch slow. And maybe we're a bit light on bodies, which is something that concerns me with this deck sometimes. Big old Muxus. Right, let's see how bad it is for us. We have a Solitude if we need it. That's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of stuff. I think we have to plow the Bombardiers. So this attacks we don't get to put in our Kaldra, and our Kaldra can just eat one of these goblins every turn. Not that we're going to have that many turns. Right, I'm going to get 2 1/1s. We get to eat one of these at least. Oh, I clicked through that. That was an accident. The computer's lagging a little bit there. Ephemerate, that doesn't do anything here. Let's Shadowy Backstreet. A Reanimate. I don't know if we're going to have the life to reanimate. So we block here, and we take 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. We're not going to have the life for this. I don't think Kaldra Compleat is going to be enough on this board. If they find another red source, then we're definitely dead. Actually, they get to pump the goblins that come out of the Legion War Boss as well. Our opponent doesn't have any agency here. All their guys have to attack apart from the Rabblemaster. Is Rabblemaster bigger than the Muxus here? No, they'll be the same size, won't they? Because they both get +1. I'm not going to do the maths. This isn't going to take long. We're just going to see how much damage you take. I think we're dead. I think the Goblins deck is just really solid. I think people have been playing some sort of different versions of it that I'm not really convinced by. I think just playing good old-fashioned Turbo Muxus. Like, if you get the Muxus, you just win the game, right? This is... Let's just see how much damage they've done, just for the purposes of our entertainment. Okay, so they did 28 damage in that turn. Yeah, I don't really know what I'm supposed to do about that one. Alright, let's go to round 2. Yeah, this hand doesn't look very good. We're going to have to mulligan this one. Okay, we can keep this one. What are we putting away? Right, we want the Stoneforge. I think it's the Pest Control that goes. It's the most situational card, I think, here. Obviously, if they don't play any creatures, this isn't going to look good, but whatever. Our opponents on the draw, are they going to be the one that does all the grief stuff to us first? Cabal Therapy. I doubt they're going to hit here. Oh, they target themselves for the Stinkweed Imp. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, okay. My computer is lagging and I just passed through my entire turn. Well, well, well. That is unfortunate. I have a Thug here and they're going to do the breakthrough. And our opponent not casting that breakthrough is interesting to me. So now I have to decide if we're doing anything. So if we had 2 mana this turn, we could start doing some interesting plays. I don't think there's any point wastelanding our opponent here. I think getting this troll to pitch to our grief just to take their breakthrough is pretty good. Alright, so they've got a Cephalid Colosseum, which is why they didn't want to fire off that breakthrough. Certainly made an easy choice by us passing through our turn by accident. Right, we're going to pop that Graveyard out here so we can have a look. So they've got a Narcomoeba coming out. If they get some bridges, we can Solitude and get ourselves a kill on one of their guys as well as removing a bunch of their stuff. So I think this is a play Cephalid Colosseum. Although they could have played Cephalid Colosseum last turn and cast a breakthrough. They want to target us. There's no point evoking a Solitude here. Let's see what they name. The fact that it's a blue-white fetch means that they're more likely to name something like Source to Plowshares, Force of Will, rather than Source to Plowshares. Alright. Cabal Therapy. I think they should have just played the Colosseum first and gone for some dredge action. They have a Thug in there, don't they? No, they don't have a Thug. Oh. Because they dredged that to their hand, didn't they? And they don't have any more dredges. They're playing the Thug. So we could plow this as soon as we get priority, but they could just fire off this Cabal Therapy and take out our plow now. Alright, so that's what's happening. Or are they going to target themselves and put the Stinkweed Imp in the graveyard? No, they're targeting us. Okay. They're going to take the Lion Sash. They put grief on top of their library using the Golgari Thug's ability. Now we get to see what they name. Lion Sash. Sure. Not a surprise. So this is going to be a Shadowy Backstreet for us. This is always going to be a very difficult game 1. I don't hate having this. Sure, we'll keep that on top for now. We're not playing it this turn. But it means after we pitch Solitude, we pitch Castle Solitude, we at least have access to a plow the following turn. Okay, we'll go and get our win condition, and we'll pass. Okay, I can dredge this Golgari Thug. Opponent seems very reluctant to use the Cephalid Colosseum, even though it allows them to dump 2 dredges in. There it is. A Grief exiling Poxwalkers. Okay, we have 2 Plows and a Solitude, so they're probably going to take the Solitude, and I can live with that. They might take the Kaldra if they're worried about our clock. Our deck doesn't really clock amazingly without the Kaldra. No, these little Solitudes are just not really good enough to beat Dredge, I don't think, on their own. Once they start whirling around. Alright, so they're going to dredge the Thug. See if they hit another Dredger. They did, they hit Stinkweed Imp. Okay, they're on the Satoru build. Okay, plenty of stuff and they get to bin off some Dredges. They don't have any cards they can cast immediately. Shadowy Backstreet. Sure, let's have a little look. Wasteland, that can go into the graveyard for now. I'm tempted to Wasteland our opponent off so they can't flash back a Otherworldly Gaze. That seems like a sensible play. And then we'll attack. So have they got any Cabal Therapies in the graveyard yet? No. Nothing popped out either. So they might not have any play. Yeah, I see why they take the Kaldra, because we don't really clock very well. Another Wasteland. I guess we're playing it because it gets us towards playing something like a Solitude. Even though the Solitude is best used as a pitch spell. Okay, so they found a Narcomoeba. There is a Dread Return in the graveyard. There is a bridge. Just saying no to that one. There's 2 bridges in the graveyard. We can maybe try and get them. Imagine if we'd have actually played a land on our first turn. Pest Control. That is going to be a cycler for me, I think. Well, it does kill a lot of zombies. Do I want to kill zombies or do I want to make land drops and get towards this Solitude? The thing is, we don't really have strong threats in this deck now that we don't have our thing. Okay, so we're going to stop on our opponent's draw step here as well. And then we're going to let them dredge. This will resolve. And then still in their draw step, we're going to Solitude pitch casting. So they've got a Cabal Therapy in there. So they can get back some Poxwalkers. So I think we pitched the Pest Control here. So we get to strip out their 2 bridges. So if they do want to Cabal Therapy us, we can plow one of the Poxwalkers. How many have they got in here? Is it just the 1? Just the 1, I think. They've only got 14 cards left in their deck. Alright. Plow this. Our opponent might not be able to get enough cards to Dread Return. How many Narcomoebas have we got rid of? We've got rid of 1 there. There's 1 there. Still got 2 Narcomoebas and some number of bridges. Pest Control. Is that helpful here? We're not worried about losing to zombies at this point, I don't think. I think we are going to cycle this one. Another Stoneforge. It beats down, I guess, for 1. Not many dredges left in their graveyard there. Was it just the Thug? They found another Narcomoeba. This looks like the build of dredge that I played a little while ago on the channel. With the 1 Icarid. So they have 1 more Narcomoeba left after this. And they have 1 Cabal Therapy there. So they can get back some Poxwalkers, but they exile 1 already. Troll of Khazad-dum. Alright, let's Stoneforge. We don't have anything to put in. Jitte would be quite nice here. Let's cycle this. We've got already both of our Shadowy Backstreets, so we just get Scrubland. Play this so that we're odds on to play a Grief or something and try and get the clock down. I think we might just win by decking. We need another removal spell to stop our opponent from just reanimating this Thassa's Oracle and killing us. Are you talking about Narcomoeba? No. Wow, our opponent scoops it up anyway. Alright, we got a bit lucky there. Now we get to ruin our opponent's day with Leyline of the Void. Do you want anything else here at all? I don't think so. So Pest Control sweeps up a bunch of stuff, so that's pretty good. Orcish Bowmasters can ping itself and remove bridges. That seems reasonable. The Thoughtseizes don't seem great here. So I mean, we're trimming on Grief. But Grief is a pitch thing that gets rid of bridges. So I don't think we're getting rid of those. Maybe it's a couple of Ephemerates. Like if we'd have top decked an Ephemerate in that situation, it would have been terrible. So we'll get rid of a couple of those. Alright, somehow we passed our first turn and managed to win. So we have no white removal. We can grief our opponent, which might not be very useful. No, this isn't the one. Let's mulligan. This hand also looks pretty bad. We can remove bridges, but our opponent can kind of just go off in a big way. Okay. Lion Sash is keepable. It's not the Leyline we're looking for, but I'll take it. Then we have to decide what we're playing, what we're keeping in our hand, and what's going away. So we definitely keep in the Sash. I don't think we need this Reanimate. Although we could reanimate one of our opponent's creatures. That could be kind of interesting. But I think that's probably a bit of a foolish one. Let's get rid of the Wasteland, and I think it's the Reanimate here. That leaves us with Answers for Zombies, Graveyard Hate, and a thing that can ping itself to remove bridges. Our opponent is beginning on 4, but their deck operates in very different axes to other decks. Alright. A careful study, that's pretty much how they want to start off their game. Boxwalkers, so no Dredger. That's going to give us some time. Another Pest Control. Alright. So we can go and fetch a Shadowy Backstreet. Depending on what our opponent does, depends on what we want to get with a Shadowy Backstreet. If they start ripping through our hand, then we're not going to want to get a land. But otherwise, a land is pretty good. Another careful study. Yeah, see, our opponent's playing around Wasteland as well. A bridge and an oracle. But no Dredger. Let's crack this, get ourselves a Shadowy Backstreet. We do not need a third one of these. Our opponent's got one card in hand, and it's not a Dredger, because they would have put that in their graveyard. I think they would have prioritized that over a Thassa's Oracle, because Thassa's Oracle is something they can cast. So we will fire off this grief first. Just see what our opponent's working with on their last card. A Breakthrough. We get a free bridge out of our opponent's graveyard there. We play this Lion Sash, so it can't be Cabal Therapy out of our hand. And if we untap, this game is probably over. Unless our opponent can do a really big turn. Alright, our opponent's had enough. So, yeah, sideboard cards are good. I will note that the game we won in game 1, like, we didn't have a threat, which is something that I'm worried about with our deck. We have like our Reanimate threats that we can bring back, but if we can't do that, we feel a little bit anemic threat-wise. But we'll see how it goes. Let's have a look at the third round. Thoughtseize into Stoneforge Mystic. We're gaming like it's 2010 or whatever. Love it. Basic Mountain and nothing else. This makes me think more along the lines of Painter, but we can still afford to get ourselves a basic Swamp here. Let's see what they're keeping. Okay, Broadside Bombardiers, Fable. So they can play Magus to the Moon next turn. We don't have a white source if they do that, so maybe we have to take the Magus here. But how are we beating this Broadside? Not being able to Planescycle was annoying here. I think we have to take the Magus. So I'm probably going to see Fable this turn. There it is. Stoneforge, when they have Broadside Bombardiers, doesn't feel very good. But we have lots of Stoneforges, so we can just keep going. I feel very far behind in this game already. So they can attack, make a treasure, throw it with a broadside, kill our Stoneforge, bash us for 4. And then all of our threats are just going to die to this broadside. Unless we find a removal spell Sharpish, we are just going to bleed out to it. I guess we could have Wastelanded there instead of playing a Stoneforge, but that just delays the same problem until next turn. And that doesn't really seem worth it to me. Alright. So they make a treasure, they throw a treasure, we lose a creature. Oh, they have a Solitude. Alright. What? This makes no sense to me. It seemed like a lot of resources when they already had it covered with the treasure token. Like, they're still going to win this game, and then we're not really going to be able to mount much of a comeback here. Stripping this out doesn't really help us out. Let me just play this. I'm going to get another card. So we could ephemerate this to dodge removal. But they have 5, 6, 7. They have lethal damage. Let's see if our opponent makes a mistake and targets our Stoneforge. That might give us an out, potentially. Although we can't really block here very effectively either. Our opponent would have to make some pretty catastrophic mistakes to lose this game. Okay, we get to block, do we? And they're just going to throw this at us for the last point of damage here. It's just a lava axe to the face. Our opponent sees it. If we can draw a Solitude... Okay, yeah, we're just dead. Yeah, we got absolutely smashed apart there. Okay, I think the Lorans of the third path look fine. We can take out some Fables or fast mana. Seems reasonable. Thoughtseize on the play seems good. Maybe we want more of those. So we take the thing that our opponent's trying to keep their hand for. The Pest Control doesn't seem great. We might be able to hit some of their mana. But then I guess they might have chalices, which we want to deal with. I don't think I want 4. I don't really want all of these Ephemerates into a deck that's going to be casting chalice sometimes. Alright, let's try this. Alright, we actually have a grief hand. But we don't have a second land. I don't think I can keep this. Alright, this looks a lot better. We can keep this. One of these goes back. Pest Control might be a little bit tricky to cast, but it does pitch to everything. I think we send that one back. We don't get to grief on turn 1, actually. That was a bit of an error there. Yeah, that was a pretty big spew, actually. A Lotus Petal, sure. Chromox, now the Pest Control looks good. Not that we can have the mana to cast it right now. If we play a Moon Effect, we can go and fetch a Plains. Yeah, we should have kept the Pest Control over the Loran, I think. Just took a look at their hand. Broadside Bombardiers. I think we just get a Plains here. Play around Blood Moon. Troll of Khazad-dum. I'd rather see my opponent's hand or have a third land. I think we just rely on the top of our deck. We also see how good our Wasteland is. Maybe we just want to strip our opponent out. Okay, these cards aren't very good. Okay. I guess we take the Loran out. And we'll assume Spirit Guide if they want to attack with that. Be my guest. There's no point Wastelanding. I'd rather keep this for the Loran anyway. We might be able to take our opponent off of red. Eventually. Oh, they draw a banger off the top. Oh, they drew a big banger. Okay. This is a problem. It is a problem. Right, we can kill this. But then what? I think we're going to wait to see if they forge. And then we'll plow it in response. Or Solitude in response. And then we'll probably keep the Loran because that's a card we can actually cast. I haven't liked how I've played this game, but I also feel like we've been underdogged quite hard. Like if we can't remove a Bombardiers, we can't beat it for sure. And this sort of stuff, tricky. We're just not doing the scam thing, I think, is the problem. If we were doing like Reanimate Grief on turn 1 type stuff, then we'd be in a lot better spot. That half the deck is very powerful, but the other half of the deck doesn't feel great to me so far. We're going to see Assume Spirit Guide. The old Ape Spirit beatdown. This has to get us a Scrubland. This might make our opponent not want to attack. We have taken our opponent off of red now. If they attack, then we get to attack back. Get the initiative, and then we have a Vigilance creature, so we get to do both offense and defense there. So this could be working out for us. Right, found Assuming Spirit Guide. Play a Magus of the Moon. Okay. I think I would attack there if I were them. They decided not to. A Grief we can't cast. Do I want to trade this Loran for just one body? I don't think so. I think we'll pass. We're probably going to end up drawing cards. So we need to find some removal here. It will mean they get a card. But this is our last turn to try and take back the initiative. I think once they go into Throne of the Dead 3, it's probably lights out for us. They just get like a giant Bombardiers or whatever. Fable of the Mirror Breaker for our opponent. That's not ideal. But nothing has been this game, really. Alright, I guess we both draw. A Wasteland. So we can Grief card out their hand, but that's not really going to get us anywhere. How are we supposed to win this game? I guess we try and draw another card. Maybe a Pest Control can do some work for us along the lines. Yeah, I don't think we're beating this, are we? I guess we can draw 2 cards. We can't cast a Solitude. We can only pitch cast a Solitude. And we need 3 cards to pitch cast and Ephemerate. I guess if we kill the Magus of the Moon, then we can Ephemerate. Alright, that's our plan. But we still have to deal with this Caves of Chaos Adventurer. Big creatures are big. Sure, I don't think we can block here. We need a creature that we can try and contest the initiative with, potentially. Alright, let's have a look. Nothing. So we can't even cast Solitude if we draw it. Yeah, we're just dead here. There's no way we're winning that game. We got absolutely annihilated there. Our deck feels like half of it is a little bit outdated. The other half is very good. Alright, let's go to the 4th round. Alright, our opener for round 4 is again a pretty clunky one. We can just Grief, Reanimate Grief, and hope that at some point we find some mana. We're on the draw, so we've got 2 draw steps before we start missing lands. I guess we keep this. Like, the scam stuff that we do with our deck, like the Grief, Reanimate Grief plan, is by far the best thing our deck does. So I think it's worth just leaning into that. And if we find a white source and Ephemerate, we can just take all of our opponent's cards. We can even do the Ephemerate in their draw step. Alright, opponents, what are you up to? Urza's Saga. Is this a fair or an unfair Urza's Saga deck? So far, hard to say. Right, we found our white source. I think we are still doing the Grief, Reanimate Grief plan. And hopefully we can Pest Control away some tokens later. This is definitely a matchup for Pest Control, looks good. There's definitely some awkward stuff going on over there. I guess we take the Force. That allows us to reanimate the Grief. And take the... It probably ends up being the Chalice. So we take the Chalice. They have no ability to play either of these. And then we hope that our white source comes online quick enough that we can just Ephemerate this and strip out anything else. Right, they're in Cash-in Bauble mode, so that takes them further away from Metalcraft and their affinity creatures. Or Improvise, which is basically affinity. Alright. There is an Urza's Saga. Ticking up away. No extra mana sources. I like our spot. Not sure how good our opponent's hand was, though. So we could go get a Stoneforge Mystic, or we could just really put our opponent to task right now with this Ephemerate, which I think I like more. They have some scary cards in hand, and I quite like to make sure that they're no longer in their hand. So in our opponent's upkeep, we're going to do this. Oh, sorry, in their draw step. This also plays around any sort of Force of Negation type shenanigans. 2 Chalices, a Thought Monitor, a Thought Cast, and the Kappa. So they can play one of these out if they want to. Thought Cast is the easier card for them to cast, so maybe we sort of go for that one. We don't care about the Chalice at this point. So they can play a Chalice on 1, but we've already cast our 1-drops. They've got a Lotus Petal to do that. So they're basically saying they've got nothing else going on over there, and we have a clock in play. Sure, I'll take that. This is a Delver's worth of damage. So we cast this and it goes into the Chalice. But it goes into our graveyard. Whether or not that's the thing we want. Right, Shadowy Backstreet. Solitude. That seems like a reasonable draw if they do manage to slip something through. Just going to get a Lion Sash. Because that's the only thing we have left to get. Nice bash. In for 3. A Lotus Petal from our opponent. They now have Metalcraft, but they still only have 5 in terms of actual mana for affinity spells. So they're a long ways off of getting a Kappa Cannoneer into play. And hopefully by the time they do, if they do, then they'll be already dead to what's on board. Right, we're going to activate our Stoneforge Mystic, put in a Kaldra Compleat, and bash for 8. It's the first time we've actually been attacking with Grief and Kaldra this league, I think. Had a bit of a rough time of it. Now, a dead card in the Reanimate. A Bauble. They're close to Kappa Cannoneer, but our opponent has given up, and I don't blame them. So, this is a matchup where Null Rod looks pretty good, as does Loran and these Stony Silences. How do I feel about having a Lion Sash when we're boarding in 3 Null Rod effects? It's still a 1-1. I don't like the Thoughtseize here. think 1-drops are a little bit precarious into all the chalices we can expect to see. Bowmasters stops them drawing extra cards. Attacking their hand seems fine here. The reason I don't like Thoughtseize is because we're on the draw, so our opponent's already going to spend a bunch of their resources. Pest Control looks very good here. Maybe the Lion Sash can go, and we're just going to remove their things. And I guess it's probably a couple of Ephemerates go. They help us do some like bonkers stuff with Grief, but then they're also a subpar draw if our opponent picks apart our hand. Yeah, this seems good. We can decide if we want to do Grief stuff or not. Without having the Reanimate, the Grief doesn't feel super special. Obviously, that's why you run the Ephemerates as well. But we'll see what we draw, and then we can adjust our plans. Right, Mox Opal from our opponent, into a Bauble, into a Lotus Petal. Metalcraft is on, and an Ancient Tombs. They can play something pretty big here. There's going to be a Synthesizer, a Thought Monitor. Like I said, they can play something pretty big here. So our opponent's played a 7-drop on turn 1. Understood. And they're still going. And now they've got Emery as well. Suffice it to say, we are behind. They only got 0-drops. But those 0-drops do draw them cards. This is an awkward one. So I think we're playing this. I don't think we can allow this Emery to do its thing. I think we have to Solitude the Emery. And I think we need to pitch this Stoneforge Mystic to do it. Now this turns on Reanimates for us anyway. But we don't have to deal with that. Hopefully that's the only engine they've got running. We can go and get a Shadowy Backstreet in our opponent's turn. They're cracking... They're taking themselves off of Metalcraft in exchange for another card. At some point we might be able to use Bowmasters to ping down a Thought Monitor. That is not an Urza Saga, so that's good for us. We have a Wasteland for Urza Saga, I guess. That's not really an issue either. Psy Master Thopterist. Pest Control is reasonable against that guy. I would like to just clean that guy off the board though. Alright, let's go and get a Backstreet. A Reanimate. I would like to put that on top of my library, please. I think I will Reanimate this Solitude. Let's take out Psy. I think that's more annoying for us than the Thought Monitor in the long run. Because if they're attacking for 2, and we're attacking for 3, we end up alright in that situation. Chalice of the Void, X equals 1. Sure, that gets swept up with Pest Control. Emery. Less ideal for us. They're not attacking. So they clearly want to try and play this Thought Monitor. Ephemerate. This is a little bit awkward because we don't get to Ephemerate this whilst there is the Emery, the Chalice in play. So we'll play this out. If we attack, they can trade their Thought Monitor and then recast it with Emery, which does not sound good for me. So I think we're just going to pass it over. Try and snag something with the Bowmasters. They're getting back a Bauble. They're probably going to crack it around a timing that is awkward for us. Right, they've got a Saga. We can Wasteland that on our turn. And fire off this Bowmasters. Here, opponent for 1. A Dismember. That's a lot of life our opponent paid for that. Would like to find a land that can cast its Pest Control. We did not. So if we Pest Control now, they just replay it with the Emery. But I guess we can then do that next turn. We don't want to attack and just give them this Thought Monitor. Yeah, this is an awkward spot for us. We just need another land to Pest Control and Ephemerate at the same time. There is an Urza Saga. It's a pretty good one. We've got Pest Control for when it pops. We can take everything out. But they might get a swing in first if we do that. They're going for a Bauble again, just keeping the Howling Mine flowing. Thought Monitor. Yeah, that's pretty good. They should be attacking with this one now. Our opponent's seeing a lot more cards than us. Are we cycling a Pest Control to try and hit the land so we can nail this Emery? I think we're going to need Pest Control, so I think we're just going to keep them. If we fire off a Pest Control now, maybe our opponent doesn't make a Chalice next turn. Maybe they just want the Mox. And then next turn, we can Ephemerate our Solitude. And that puts us in a pretty solid position. We can also get back our Bowmasters. See if they just replay the Chalice. Because that might mean they can't activate Urza Saga. They had a Mox Opal. Lava Spare Boots is pretty good. Oh, he's going to make a construct and attack with it. We have to block that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We will have to block. Okay. Okay, Spell Bomb just makes our Ephemerate useless. They're getting the Chalice back anyway. Yeah, our opponent absolutely has our number here. Like, they did have a series of good draws, like the Dismember for Bowmaster into a Thought Monitor when they were Hellbent was pretty solid. Okay, they didn't make a guy, so we didn't have to block this turn. They're given their Emery Ward. I don't have any blue mana up for the Spell Bomb right now. Another Solitude. So we can take out this Emery. We probably have to just get rid of our Ephemerate to do that. Or we could Pest Control and then kill the Emery. Just get rid of a bunch of stuff. And then we'll pitch cast this. Take out the Emery. We want to attack here so we have some life. We're going to take that trade. Sure. So now we can reanimate a Solitude next turn. Because we'll be on 9. So we can reanimate that. Possibly take out the Saga, possibly take out the Thought Monitor. Depends what our opponent does with the rest of their turn and how big we need to go. Because taking out the Thought Monitor does shrink the construct. And we don't really have any way of beating flyers in our deck. In combat, we have to remove them. Our opponent isn't playing out a bunch of stuff, so maybe we can strand some things in their hand. Making their Metalcraft lower. An Orcish Bowmasters. That is not better than the Reanimate here. We could just get a Thought Monitor of our very own. But that's 7 life, and I don't think that's a wise move. We'll get the Lifelinker. We'll take out their Flyer. And then hopefully we can gain some life back with this Solitude. They only have a 1-1 right now. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't at least a 2-2 at some point during our opponent's turn. Psymaster Thopterist. Oh, they're going to spam a load of stuff now. Could well be. We're going to get a ping off of our Bowmaster at least. If they pop this Bauble. I think we have to block here. I don't like it, but it's some life. It's a thing off the board. Let's just cast this and get our free ping. And a Force of Will for this. Understood. Alright, we drew a Bowmasters. We can't cast it just yet. I wouldn't hate seeing a Bauble here from our opponent. Allow us to ping down both their little guys. Troll of Khazad-dum. I will cycle this for a Scrubland. And we'll play the Scrubland. And we'll go to our opponent's turn. Maybe they'll cast a Thought Cast or something this turn. We can actually ping all over the shop. These Ancient Tombs aren't free. Oh no, we're just going to get capped. We are just going to get capped. Yikes. That is a huge issue for us. We could have played around that by pinging their guy down. Let's attack with the Psy. If we ping down a Thopter, how does that help us? I guess we have to rely on being able to chump block this Kappa Cannoneer. Troll of Khazad-dum is not the one here, is it? Let's get Shadowy Backstreet. We're hoping our opponent whiffs on their next turn. Swords to Plowshares. We don't have the Ward. Do I think we can realistically get through 2 turns? Probably not. How are we beating this, though? How are we beating that? Loran on the third path doesn't do it either. So we need to draw this and a land for this to matter. And that's 2 of our opponent's turns. I think we have to put it into our graveyard. I just don't think we can beat the Ward 4. I think we're just dead there. We could have stopped this Kappa Cannoneer coming into play by pinging down their 1-1. That was definitely a mistake I made. But they might have had other artifacts anyway. But this is now unblockable, so we're dead. Yep. Let's go to game 3. I like the tools we have. Thoughtseize is a little more tempting on the play, but I still think we just run in like this. Maybe try and throw some of our haymakers at our opponent with like the Null Rod type stuff. An early Null Rod can do a lot of work. Okay, we have Grief, Reanimate, Grief into Null Rod. This feels absolutely ideal. This is the broken end of what our deck can do. Alright, Grief, pitching Reanimate. Just do the thing. Kappa Cannoneer and a Lotus Petal. We could just take their Kappa Cannoneer here. That feels pretty good to me. We get to shut off their artifact mana, so their Urza Saga won't ever be producing tokens. And we also get to put a counter on our Kappa Cannoneer because we're going to cast an artifact. I think the big clock that they can't deal with is better than just getting a second poke at the hand. Because what would we get there? A Lotus Petal. I don't care about that. I want a 5/5 unblockable guy. Start with a seat into a petal. Bauble was their draw for turn. So they can't have force here. Let's crack this. This should be game, I think, when we play this. Alright, we won the match. Okay, so now we're chugging along. We've got 2 wins on the board. Let's see if we can get the positive record. This hand is already a mulligan with Kaldra. Let's just try and get to the powerful stuff our deck does. Ephemerate much worse than Reanimate here. And what does this hand actually do? It can mess up some graveyard strategies, which is a lot of strategies, and this is a real threat. Then we can keep this, and we probably bottom the Ephemerate here. Like the Troll is something that we can put into the graveyard and get a big creature to beat down with, if that's how the game is going. Plow, never unhappy to see plows. Let's Thoughtseize our opponent, see what flavour of Scalding Tarn they are. Scalding Tarn with no play is interesting. Could be like trying to do a turn 2 Brainstorm, which would be a sort of slower deck. Maybe they rely on getting a... Okay, they're pitching a Murktide Regent to that Force of Will. They really don't want to get Thoughtseized. That suggests to me they've got something like a Beanstalk in hand and they want to just get that down. And they reckon they can recoup the cards lost. A Leyline Dowser. Cool card. If you watch my league last week, I think it was, I had a really nice Leyline Dowser league, and there's going to be more of them, don't you worry. So I think we just want to get our Lion Sash in here. Control our opponent's graveyard since they're a Murktide Regent deck. Now, this does die to red removal, but it would die to red removal if we had a bunch of mana to add to it. Unholy Heat, sure. Mishra's Bauble. This is just Delver with Leyline Dowser. Like, it seems good. It seems very good to me. It's a little bit slower than Delver normally runs, but the inevitability on it is brutal. They're wastelanding our Wasteland. That tells me that you don't have another coloured source. Understood. Kaldra Compleat. It's not really the one we want, is it? So we want to cycle this guy first. Then we're just going to get a Scrubland and then play the Shadowy Backstreet. A Plow. We already have a Plow for their threat when they get there. Is it cautious to just have 2 Plows? I think we're okay with just the 1 Plow. We need to find a way of actually making the most of the game, because as this game goes on, our opponent's going to be effectively drawing 2 cards a turn because of this Leyline Dowser, which is a phenomenal card. Been very impressed with this one. Right, I've got a Brainstorm, which then can feed the Dowser to guarantee it a card. Interesting, they're going after our mana there. Maybe they're not like Delver. I guess we'll go and get Shadowy Backstreet. Stifle is the thing our opponent could have, so we might try and play around that window. Alright, Orcish Bowmasters is the sort of caliber of card I'm looking for. They've milled a Lightning Bolt. Very nice. And they're milling a Force of Will into their hand. Oh, this Dowser is so good. Steam Vents. Interesting they're running a Steam Vents instead of a Thundering Falls. And a Ponder, instant sorcery, artifact land. So that will be enough to turn this guy into a bigger friend. I don't really want to plow it because our opponent has Dazes potentially in their deck. But I am happy to 1-for-1 Pest Control it. Is that better? We know they've got a Force of Will is the problem. Right, let's see if we cast a Hymn to Tourach here. But our opponent's already drawn so many cards off this Leyline Dowser. Alright, we're just in. Okay. So they've got Lightning Bolt and Force of Will in their hand. It's going to be the Murktide. So this is probably where the Force of Will is going to be pointed, is our Plowshares. Yeah. Alright. It's only a 6/6. They'd leave one of each type over there. So I'm going to try and use this Orcish Bowmasters as bait to let our Source Plowshares resolve. What is this? Whenever you commit a crime, create a tapped treasure token. Sacrifice 3 treasures, get a dragon. Unusual. This is a legendary creature though, so it untaps the Leyline Dowser. Which is some stuff here. Do we think they've got a blue card? Or are we just going to plow here? I don't think we beat Daze and Force of Will being in our opponent's hand. Right, we're going to try and cast this to play around the known Force of Will. See if they want to Force of Will this. Okay. There's something going on. Mystic Sanctuary, putting a Brainstorm on top. That grows the Murktide. Okay. They're going to get this Brainstorm. Which does grow the Murktide. We're going to wait for them to cast the Brainstorm, I think, and then we're going to plow this. Huh. Okay. That's interesting. So we'll take the 8 here. We're going to try and plow around the Daze. Trying to bait out the Force of Will there. Lightning Bolt targeting our Orcish Bowmasters. So we know our opponent has Force of Will blue card right now, actually. So we can't beat this. Yeah, because we're getting clowned on pretty hard here. Leyline Dowser is just too good. Alright, let's see if Stoneforge Mystic is good enough to get a Force of Will. It's not. Okay. That's no good. We got no equipments left to get. We know they have a Force and a Brainstorm. We have one more turn. So I think we try and draw the thing next turn. So we can draw a Grief. We can draw maybe a Thoughtseize. That does put us to 1. But we're already going to be at 3, which is lethal to Bolt anyway. Okay, the Brainstorm. That happens. A different Magda. Okay. Interesting. They're milling, they're getting a Ponder. It grows their Murktide to 9. They're untapping their Dowser. Which gets them a treasure token. And they grow this to a 9-9. Now it's a 10-10. And they untap their Dowser. So they can mill their entire deck here, right? And they've got another Mystic Sanctuary. No. A Ponder. No, they can't mill that whole thing. They can't untap the Magda. Right? But they can mill themselves a whole bunch. Oh, a Portent that they left on top. I see what's happening here. Yeah, this is savage. Because this mills the card, then puts it back, so it leaves the graveyard. Yep, we got slaughtered there. Alright, let's see if we can beat them out of the board. Land on the Void does do some stuff against our opponents. I don't normally like it that much against Delver, but I think here it makes some sense. Because they're doing more stuff with their graveyard. Now, this doesn't stop Leyline Dowser, but it does stop the Murktide, and they're just really leaning into that sort of thing. So I think we can go -2 Thoughtseize, +2 Leyline. Pest Control seems fine. Ephemerate is a little situational again. I think that's probably what comes out here to make room for the Leylines. I'm going to try something like this. In theory, we can just play the we've got lots of white removal spells, let's win the game that way plan. But we haven't been very good at doing that. It's not like a blue deck where you can just sort of sculpt into them all the time. Because sometimes we remove their guys and we just don't have anything going on, and then we're just sort of twiddling our thumbs until our opponent finds another threat, and then we eventually lose. Okay, well we have this Land on the Void, but the rest of our hand is really bad, so we need to mulligan this. We could reanimate a Troll on turn 2, that seems reasonable. That's hard for red removal to deal with. So we'll keep this. What are we getting rid of here? Probably the Wasteland. Or is it the Scrubland? It's probably the Wasteland. I don't really like Wasteland and Delver decks very much. Our opponent is doing something a little bit different with their Delver deck. And it looks really sweet. So we'll play this one out. Play on basics to dodge Wasteland. This way we can definitely play around the Daze as well. Just try and cycle our Troll, make a big Troll, hopefully kill some stuff with Pest Control. And that'll be enough to win the game. I don't really want to get stifled here. But it's still going to be in the graveyard, so it's not the end of the world if they do. Okay, basic Swamp. Time to jam. a regular swamp. And let's try and reanimate our big guy. It's the thing we have to do. Has to be a force. Daze isn't good enough. They have the force. Alright, we're settling in for a longer game then. Which doesn't really favour me because my opponent's running Leyline Dowser. And I assume they're running quite a few of them. The Magda technology is interesting. I'm not sure how great it is. Okay, a Channeler. And a Ponder. I'd rather Pest Control this and save our Plow for a Murktide, since that's the big scary thing. So we play this one out so we can play around days if we have to. If not, we can get Shadowy Backstreet and get a little bit of selection. Following Dragon's Rage Channeler, if they have more of them, will be good enough. Maybe we're supposed to board in Null Rod just for this Dowser. It does do a lot of work. But I think our game plan just in general is to come out of the gates faster and do our thing rather than settling for a long game. Sure, I will have this reanimate. Let's try and get the troll back again. Scrubland. Let's pass. So they're going to be getting some card advantage with the Leyline Dowser. Even if it mills something, that's still a card that you weren't going to be wanting to draw anyway most of the time. It stops you from, you know, it takes a land off the top of your deck. Or a creature. Which can sometimes be annoying if you're looking for a threat. But you still get to draw your regular card every turn, so it's not like it completely stops you from developing. Leyline on the Void. Alright, let's go to attacks. I will play this Leyline on the Void. It is dazable. Okay. Managed to get that damage in. Let's try this Leyline. Which doesn't stop their Leyline Dowser from working. Okay. We're going to get double lightning bolted here. Or they're just putting the cards in there for Murktide. We are getting double lightning bolted. This looks like a Mystic Sanctuary to get that Ponder back. That'll be my guess. Our opponent agrees. So they get one Leyline, one Murktide Regent's worth of creature. Because Leyline of the Void will stop. Right, so Ponder goes into their hand. Yeah, so they still get it. It's still very powerful. But we stop the Murktide and we stop that growing shenanigans that they showed us. Although we were already dead before then, but it's pretty cool. There's a Wasteland. That can take us off of Grief mana. Our opponent wants to do that. It's understandable. Right, this seems like the best thing we can do, so let's play it. Volcanic Island got milled there. Let's go and get our Kaldra Compleat. We already have the answer for Murktide, so we don't need to get like a Lion Sash and try and drain their graveyard. More lightning bolts, sure. So now we have this clunky Kaldra sat in hand. Right, no baubles. Being able to see the top card of your library is not unhelpful in terms of your Leyline Dowser. Right, we're back down to 2 lands. A Pest Control. I'm going to cycle one of these. Try and hit like a land. If it's a fetch land, we can get some selection off of the Backstreets. Then we've still got one of those in our deck. A Reanimate. Alright, we have a play for next turn. Okay. Dragon's Rage Channeler got exiled there. Magda. I can untap the Dowser and just immediately start drawing them cards. Yeah, our opponent's deck looks sick. Lion Sash. Well, I think we're just going to stay on plan and just make a big troll. This Magda value is concerning. But I think the thing I'm actually worried about is Murktide. Unholy Heat. What do they have? They have Delirium. So this Unholy Heat is just going to kill our troll. I mean, they don't have a sorcery anymore. Oh, they're making us pay for days. Is this multiple dazes? Right, let me just in. So they've got sorcery, creature. No, they haven't got sorcery creature yet. It's just land, instant, creature. So don't have Delirium. So Unholy Heat doesn't kill our troll. I really like our opponent's deck, and I'm probably going to try and play it myself at some point soon. I think Leyline Dowser is incredibly powerful. Alright, so they're just going to double up on removal spells here. But because they're drawing 2 cards a turn, they can afford to do this. We've seen like nearly 10 cards more than us. We've seen 8 more cards than us, right? Yeah, so they've basically been drawing 1 extra card every turn this whole game. Is what it amounts to. Orcish Bowmasters. Alright, I like this one. try and get this Magda down. Meltdown. Not sure Meltdown looks great against us, but okay, we're getting somewhere. I think the problem with the 2-1 Magda is that it's got 1 toughness, obviously, and that is not great in Bowmaster world. The other Magda is a bit slower at making treasures. I wonder if they've got like a big dragon they can find. Look at all their exile cards. To attack here. We can play out this 2-drop artifact, because if they want to melt it down, they'll take out that Dowser, and I will take that trade any day of the week. We've now got a 2-turn clock, although we can remove 1 permanent from the graveyard. That's not going to change the clock. Mystic Sanctuary. They want a lightning bolt back? They do. Mystic Sanctuary plus Leyline Dowser is real scary, actually. Just immediately get the card. Do they go for the Sash, or do they go for the Bowmasters? Probably the Bowmasters, because that shuts off all their cantrips, which they can use to find a threat that they're clearly looking for. A Bauble. So the hand is like Meltdown plus Lightning Bolt. Yeah, so they're looking at their own library, so they know what to do with their Leyline Dowser. But I think you do that slightly differently there, right? I guess they got a fetch land, so they can just use a Surveil here. Use it like a Surveil land. Because otherwise you can do the Delver trick where you target yourself with on your turn, on your opponent's turn, so when it comes to yours you can use your Leyline Dowser before the trigger resolves for the card or not. Have to imagine they're killing our Bowmasters if they got the Lightning Bolt. They have the Meltdown in hand, right? So they do have the ability to kill our Lion Sash down the line. It will cost them deeply because they'll lose their Dowser, but they've drawn half their deck already. Yep, they are going for the Bowmasters like I thought they might. So we get to grow our Sash by 1. We'll eat their Dragon's Rage Channeler. I think this is more important than trying to ephemerate anything here. What am I worried about? Am I supposed to grief our opponent when they've got 2 cards now? We know one of the cards is Meltdown. I don't think we're supposed to grief. Just try and ride this Sash to victory. Let's see if we can force the Meltdown to get rid of their Leyline Dowser, and then we can just play the grief afterwards. I guess we could have played the grief then, but then if our opponent gets another turn of Leyline Dowsing, maybe they can find the answers they need. I'm just trying to shut off the Dowser. And then once they've got all their cards, we then strip the best ones with our grief. They shuffled off of the Ponder. A Murktide Regent, okay. Oh, they're doing something with treasure tokens. They are melting us down. I removed their Leyline Dowser from play though. They got another one. Magda. 1 card in hand. We don't know what it is. Let's have a look what they've got. A land. I think we ephemerate this now, just so we have another threat. This threat is lethal. We know our opponent's hand. We just need to fade 1 draw from our opponent. I'm surprised they don't have a Thundering Falls. I think that would be better than the Steam Vents they got. Alright, we tied up the game. Let's think about it. Do we want some kind of... The problem is Lion Sash is very good against our opponent's deck. So I don't really want to board in Null Rods. I think we're just going to go back in again. We kind of want to go under what they're doing before they've sort of managed to do the big long grind. We did beat the grind there, but our opponent was very unfortunate not to draw into anything that they needed. So we have a removal spell for a big scary guy. We have a Lion Sash to mess with their graveyard. We have a Stoneforge Mystic. I think we can keep this. I'm not expecting our Stoneforge to live, unfortunately. But we get to see the fairer side of our deck in action here. There is a Wasteland. So we're probably playing on basics this game. No Shadowy Backstreet for a while. Just go and get planes while we can. Playing around potential Stifle. Oh no, that one can't get a planes, can it? I can only get a swamp. That's still fine. We're not ploughing this turn. I should have played the other one out so we could get the planes though. That was a mistake. We can cycle this Troll for Scrubland. Oh, they kept just a Wasteland hand. Very strange. Kind of tempted to play out the Scrubland and incentivize our opponent to Wasteland it. Just put them down to no lands. They must have a force or something in this hand. No? I'll get Kaldra. I don't think our opponent's hand was a keep. We have one in hand, which is annoying. But I can live with that. Do they keep a hand on the strength of Wasteland, Mishra's Bauble, Surgical Extraction? I think they should have waited till our draw step. Alright, they're scooping it because they didn't have any mana. That was a bit unfortunate for them. I think their deck looked pretty good, and if they had kept a better hand, then we probably would have had a real good game of it. I think our hand was a little bit soft in that third game. So I feel a little bit fortunate there. So we finished with a 3-2. So let's talk about this deck. I'm more excited actually about the Leyline Dowser deck we just played than this one. But this deck, the high end of what this deck does is very powerful. So we know the Grief Reanimate plan is really good. We know the Troll of Khazad-dum Reanimate plan is really good. That's a given. So a big fan of these things. The Orcish Bowmasters, obviously very good. The Stoneforge Mystic doesn't feel amazing right now. The meta is very creature heavy. So people were packing quite a lot of creature removal. And this kind of just goes and gets the Kaldra, then dies a lot of the time. Now, yeah, that's saving removal on your other stuff. But we feel kind of light on threats, really. Like, if we're not reanimating, if we don't draw a reanimate, this is basically our threat pool, right? Until we get to 4 or 5 mana in our deck, which doesn't ramp or cantrip. That feels very light on threats to me. Ephemerate, the upside of this card is enormous. But the downside is it kind of doesn't do anything sometimes, right? If you don't have... Like, blinking a Stoneforge might not do anything if you've got both of your equipments. Like, blinking a Bowmaster's Save is good. You know, blinking these things is good. But if you don't have this when you're trying to do your combo thing, then it becomes a bit awkward. So it feels like we're trying to cheese people a little bit rather than having something here that's just a good body in and of itself. I also felt like I wanted a Jitte sometimes in this league, possibly over the 4th Pest Control, although Pest Control does pitch to both of our pitch cards. So maybe if we wanted to change this up, I would like to experiment with removing the Ephemerates and having a Jitte, possibly just another body that does stuff. So we can have something like a Charming Prince. Now, it's not an amazing card, but it can hold a Jitte if we're playing those. It can hold a Lion Sash. It is a body that can beat down on its own. It's a 2-2 rather than a 1-2. So, it's a little bit bigger and can attack into Bowmasters and force some trades. And it has the blink side, right? So if we have like a creature we want to blink, like, no, we can't save it from removal because it's not instant speed, but we can still blink these creatures to get value on our turn. But then we can also use the other modes of it. Let me just pull up Charming Prince for you. So yeah, we can use the other modes. So if we're in top deck mode and we draw an Ephemerate, it's a dead card. If we're in top deck mode and we draw a Charming Prince, we get a Scry 2. That's a reasonable amount to make our next top decks better. So this feels like a better card in the bad situations. Are we just supposed to say we want to increase the number of really bonkers hands we have, but then also mean that we have a worse sort of late game? Maybe that is correct and you are supposed to run Ephemerates, but I think it'd be worth trying having some other threats. If your white count can take it, maybe having something along the lines of a... I guess we can't really run Doughty Voidwalker with our current setup because we've got 2 of each basic. If we were to trim down on basics, so we only had 1 planes, we might be able to have a Doughty Voidwalker type card. But black is certainly not the easiest thing to have sometimes. And we definitely felt drawing a Wasteland one time when we were trying to use it for mana and we had Pest Control and Ephemerate. And we just couldn't quite get there. But we got some powerful sideboard cards which help. Like the Null Rod just completely shut out our 8-cast opponent, and that was just a done deal. And we do have the ability to cheese people with this grief stuff. It just feels like when we're not doing this, our deck is weaker than most legacy decks when we're not doing our like grief reanimate shenanigans or troll reanimate shenanigans. Because playing Stoneforge Mystic, yeah, sometimes it can just do a lot of work, but this just attracts the first piece of removal our opponent has. And then what, right? It's not a reliable thing to base your entire game around, but we sometimes have to by the way the hands work. So I'm not wholly convinced by everything on this deck, but clearly the upside of this deck is very strong. Like if you draw pretty good all the time, your deck is going to be bananas, and that's why it's putting a load of 5-0s down in the leagues. And I think that is a serious part of it, where the upside of this deck is really good. But then you could say, yeah, the floor of this deck is very low, but if you need to win tournaments, you need to get a little bit lucky whatever deck you're playing, whether that's with matchups or just, not flooding out or whatever. You're going to have a little bit of luck. So why not just say, we're just going to have the most amount of really good, like, nonsense turn 1s with, like, Reanimates and stuff. But I feel when I don't have Grief on turn 1, I'm not the biggest fan of this deck. This isn't my sort of deck, I don't think. Nevertheless, it's certainly putting up numbers, and it's certainly viable. It's definitely doing well enough to be considered a real player in the meta right now. It's certainly the flavour of the week, that's for sure. Alright, I think we are done for today. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope you enjoyed seeing that tiny bit of Leyline dowsing action at the end. I'm probably going to brew something similar to that and try it out on the channel very soon, so don't you worry. Alright, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.